Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan. I have my co-host today, Adam Trigger, along from Top Flight Sports, and we're going to talk just briefly a little bit about PGA because there happens to be a major event going on over in Royal St. George's, which is right behind me. As you can see, I took the trip over across the pond to hang out here and watch. But I wish I could. It would be an incredible tournament. There's been several players that have pulled out of the event. Zach Johnson tested positive for COVID, but had been vaccinated, so that's very unfortunate when those things happen. But this is a tournament where I will go into much greater detail at 1 o'clock with ESPN's David Behrman, who has won money in 12 of 14 shows. So believe me, I'm not his lucky charm. He's just brilliant at doing this. The last DraftKings I did, I came in 134th out of more than 58,000. And that's because of the knowledge and I get by talking to David and also Nick Borman, who is Wager Talk's resident PGA professional. And he does equally as well as David. So I'm kind of lucky in that way to have these two guys. And I'm just as lucky to have Adam Trigger on the show. So welcome to the show, Adam. It's early in the week. We have the All-Star game happening. We had the Home Run Derby. What'd you think of that last night?
I thought the home run derby was great, John. I was on yesterday with the lovely Joe Madden, and I actually had Alonso to win, and I gave out Soto over Ohtani at plus 260 for a first round matchup. So I did pretty good on the home run derby.
Awesome.
I hit the Soto matchup over Ohtani, which was probably one of the highlights of the night. That was awesome. A couple tiebreakers and a swing off at the end of that first round matchup, and then I gave. Three selections to win, all at some bigger prices. Then Alonso got home at 5.5 to 1. So great start to the week. I can't complain. Hopefully we can keep it going with the All-Star game tonight.
Yeah, you bet. And before I forget here, guys and gals, Adam is our $2 man at sportsmemo.com. His $2 play is in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. So don't wait till tomorrow to get this play because it's not going to be $2 anymore. Make sure you get over to Sportsmemo and do it now so you don't forget and get his play. And you'll be glad you did because he's running hot in the NBA right now and has a real good feel, has a real good look of the card, and is doing just extraordinarily well. So we're going to talk a little baseball here. With the All-Star game going on tonight, I don't know if you have any feeling for it. I don't think I've ever bet an All-Star game, to tell you the truth. If I did, it was pizza money, but this is basically a pick'em game. I'm not really sure how you can handicap the game because you don't know really who's going to come in when. Even the MVP would be difficult to. I mean, it's a crapshoot. If you're betting more than a $10 pizza on any of these prop bets, then you're betting too much. You know, it's just not the situation to bet thousands of dollars on in this game. But it should be quite fun with Ohtani starting. Historic, whether he didn't do well last night or not. I thought the home run derby was just extraordinarily well done, well executed. Alonso was the man. And the over 519 feet for the longest home run, won by 6 inches. So that was good, too, for the people that are betting the over. And it certainly sounded like ESPN's staff was all over the over by some of their comments. So they couldn't wait to see the 540-foot shots. The one thing, Adam, I'll mention, though, and people, they didn't work too clear on this. They were talking about the all-time record for the longest home run hit. They're only basing that on StatCast, and that's only been there since 2016. I'm going to look this up, and then I'll mention it on Manny's Pub Show today at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I remember in 1998, both Sosa and McGuire hitting 550-plus foot shots, if not more. So I'm gonna confirm that. But just so you know, I mean, that's the StatCast record, and that's fine. But there have been much, much longer home runs hit in the home run derby.
Oh, of course. I can remember vividly some that probably touched 540, 550 and, going back to the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yep.
Back when players actually went to the home run derby and you got usually
that's true
the best home run hitters in the game. So that's another thing. Not to say that last night was great. I love, and I had Alonso, but I love his attitude. Okay, I wish more players embraced it. He really embraces the competition, and that's what guys used to do. You go back to the '90s. Griffey did it every year. I think he won 3 of them in a 5-year stretch. And for the most part, if guys were healthy, they wanted to be part of it. It was an honor to be part of it. And I think, I understand the game has changed, and you have teams trying to protect their investment. You've got agents that are, basically trying to protect their asset. It's something that is probably not in the player's best interest from like a health and, a lot of players have said it can definitely mess with their swing. I'm almost curious that I wouldn't be surprised if it messed with Ohtani's swing a little bit going forward, and it takes him a week or 2 to sort of get back in, because he was really laboring out there toward the end of that round. But it's just, it used to be fun to get to the home run derby and you knew it was just going to be all the superstars with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. And it's not like that anymore. It seems like guys are more one and done now, where they want to do it once to say they did it once, and then, that will just decline in years, in subsequent years. Which is why last night, other than Alonso, not a single one had been in a home run derby before. And I think you'll see that going forward, where it's like, guys will do it once. There'll be pressure to do it when you're in your home city, like Trevor Story. Harper a couple of years ago, obviously there was pressure for him to do it when the game, when the All-Star game was in, I think it was Washington. But it was a great. I still, but all that aside, I love the fact that Pete Alonso was like, put me in it. I want to defend my title. He wanted to be there, and I think it showed. He clearly was the best. There was absolutely no question about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I love baseball. I've coached baseball for probably almost as long as you're alive, Adam. But the sound that those guys make with the bat, not that you would want to be blind, but I could have my eyes closed and I can tell when there's a home run during a game. And as long as it's foul, you wouldn't be able to see that. But it makes that sound, and I just love that sound.
Yeah.
But the second half is going to be interesting here, especially as we start the regular season games up again on Thursday, featuring the Boston Red Sox are going to be at the Bronx to take on the dreaded Yankees. They've won 6 straight against the Yankees, and you may not know this, but that's happened 7 times. That one of them has beat the other by 6 consecutive times or more since 1995. When it happens, the other team that's been the doormat does come back, but this is the first time it's happened with an All-Star break interrupting the previous matchup. So I don't know what effect that would have, but nevertheless, in this situation, the Yankees are 7-1 to win against the Boston Red Sox tomorrow night. But the betting lines right now, I've seen now finally the market has readjusted and might have overshot the Yankees in terms of the cheapness that they presently are priced at. They're plus 105 to make the playoffs. And I got to think that, I would have to think, people that live in the Bronx, New York City, in that area would be all over plus money. Last I checked, I believe they're 4.5 games out in the wild card. And you were the one that started the trend, Adam. I give you credit for it, because you got me and especially diving deep into my database with expected runs scored. They have been horrible, and it actually was probably 2 months ago that we talked about this, and they still are not getting the runners home. So do you think they will, and do you think plus 105 is a good price for the Yankees?
Yeah, I think plus 105 is a good price for sure. If I was going to make that bet, I would definitely bet them at plus 105 to make it, as opposed to, go against them. But the concerns I have here with the Yankees are their division's really tough. And I'll talk about the Blue Jays a little bit in a minute, but you've got Boston, who is clearly looks like they're there to compete. I think it's gotten past the point where they just got off to a hot start. They look like that they're going to be in this for the long haul and competitive in this division race. The Tampa Bay Rays are, they're one of the best teams in baseball right now, and they've got the pitching and the bullpen. So, the Yankees are going to be up against it with sort of who they have to play. The thing that concerns me about the Yankees is, they're not getting guys home, and I do think they will start to cash in on opportunities. I think we've already started to see that a little bit, but their bullpen is suddenly a mess all of a sudden. And that would be the concern for me. Before I would really want to jump in with the Yankees, I would want to see their bullpen get back to what it was earlier in the season. Chapman's clearly got some issues. He had a velocity dip recently, and he's kind of trying to, get back into, they pretty much moved him out of the closer role. So for me, the Yankees are going to be a stay away for me, just in general, until they can sort of solidify that bullpen. And if they do, then yeah, I definitely think that we do see them start to cash in on some of these run scoring opportunities. And, I would say that from that point forward, they could be a contender in the AL.
Yeah, I think it's for those people that like the Yankees. I will be honest, I'm not going to pull the trigger just yet. I want to see how this Red Sox series goes.
Right.
Because I will say the fact that it's a 7-1 situation that they find themselves in. When I tear down the fundamentals right now and how fundamentally flawed they are with that starting rotation, and that their basic theme was we're just going to simply outscore everybody, but they're not. It makes me really cautious with a Red Sox team that has the chemistry, has definitely the starting pitching that is vastly better than theirs.
Yes.
And, I want to see how that series goes. That's a 4-game set, too. So that's going to determine a lot. They take 3 out of 4, and all of a sudden the Yankees are right there. They take 1 out of 4, and they will struggle to make the playoffs from that point on, I think. You just can't fall close to 10 games back at this point in the playoff run. And they're 9.5, I think, overall in the divisional standing.
Yeah, one more thing with the Yankees, too. In relation to the base runs metric and, that kind of expected runs scored is, they've been better of late hitting for average, but this really isn't a lineup that hits for average. So some of it might be being a little unlucky, but some of it also might be this team swings and misses a lot. They did even last year. They were toward the bottom of the league in strikeouts last year. So they seem to be built. The lineup seems to be built to get to have the big inning, but it's starting to work toward their detriment because you're just not seeing them cash in guys at third with less than 2 outs. And I think it's some of it is maybe luck, and some of it could potentially swing in the other direction. But there's also a portion of it that's just what this Yankees team is. They swing and miss a ton. They strike out. And, if, like you said, they kind of built this team to just outscore teams. And now that the bullpen has faltered, see, that was the thing with the Yankees where I always looked at them like, okay, if they can get through 5 innings, like they're going to turn the ball over to this bullpen, and Chapman's going to be lights out, and they're going to be able to slam the door on teams. And that really hasn't been the case. And Sunday may have been the worst example of that of the entire season. I think they blew a 7-2 lead in the 9th inning to the Astros to lose a game. And that has been happening now for the better portion of a month. So it's like, they are where they are, 8 games back of the Red Sox currently. And, maybe they start to cash some of these, run scoring opportunities in, but how many more do they give up with their sort of mess of a pitching rotation right now? So yeah, that's it. Yep. The Yankees, this is a stay away for me. I think I would lean toward them figuring it out. But then again, we talked about it a couple months ago, and I don't know that they've really – it's like they've improved a little bit hitting, but now the pitching has taken a step back. So I don't think they're really any better off than they were back when we kind of started having this conversation in, what would you say, mid-May? Maybe mid-May? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's actually got worse, and now the bullpen is starting to feel the pressure of the wear and tear because of the starting pitching not being solid enough. Then that's the last of their assets really kind of going. But I'm sure they'll be active though in the trade deadline. So I don't know what kind of assets are out there. To be honest with you, I haven't seen anything that can really reverse what's going on with that team. And if I was GM of the Yankees, I'd probably, the public would hate me, but I would be a much better seller.
Yeah,
And try to put this thing back together for the future.
I agree with that, John. And while I think this is a good segue quick before we move to a different division. Speaking of trade deadline and potential buyers, one of the plays I really do like here for a MLB sort of second half future is the Toronto Blue Jays to make the playoffs. It's currently plus 130, plus 135. If you look at all the New Jersey books have this up. I think FanDuel has plus 132. There's just shop around. It might be under yes, no to make playoffs. A lot of books list this differently. The Blue Jays are 45 and 42. So they're right around the same sort of number of games back as the Yankees are. But just to make the playoffs, at plus 130, if you look at their main competition, in terms of who they're going to be sort of jockeying for position for that final wild card spot. And that's assuming the Rays and the Red Sox run away with it, which is not a given, right? But even if let's just assume they do, then you're going to have 4 or 5 teams competing for that final wild card spot. One of them we just talked about, the Yankees. The others look to be Oakland, Seattle, Cleveland, and maybe the Angels. And so none of the teams I just mentioned really strike me as a team that's going to sort of run away with it. But you look at the Blue Jays, they've had injuries all first half, right? They've had Springer's been out for most of the season. Kevin Biggio was hurt. He's back. You got Bo Bichette, who I still think is capable of more than he's shown so far. And Vlad Guerrero is still an MVP. I mean, he's an MVP candidate, really. So on top of that, I think the Jays haven't really sort of hit, their potential yet, but they also have a loaded farm system. They've got one of the top, I would say maybe 5 farm systems in baseball. So you want to talk about a team in position to address a need at the trade deadline. The Blue Jays, I think, are one of those teams. And if they can go out and get a big time arm and really sort of solidify that rotation, I mean, I'm willing to go to battle with this Blue Jays lineup, especially if you get a healthy, if you get George Springer back being productive, which they haven't had all year really. So I think the upside on the Blue Jays is definitely there. Plus 135. I mean, I've seen plus 135 a couple places for them to make the playoffs and sneak in as that last wild card team. And I, to be honest with you, I would even 12-1 to win that division might even be worth a little sprinkle, because I still think we're going to see a little bit of regression out of Boston and Tampa. I just, especially the Red Sox. Tampa might be the real deal, but as good as the Red Sox have been, I don't know if they're going to play 600 ball all season. So, yeah, I think the Blue Jays at plus 135 to make the playoffs is a really good bet for the money right there.
Yeah, I like it. I'm seeing that 10-1 for the division at DraftKings. But still, I mean, that's why you shop. That's why you shop.
I think some of the Vegas books had 12-1 on that as yesterday when I looked.
Yep.
But yeah, shop around obviously.
Yep, that's good. I like that bet the best so far on the show. Now, speaking of regression, one that I wanted to discuss with you is the San Francisco Giants. And I'm not saying that they are a candidate for regressing, but getting I believe it's 525 plus 525 money that they missed the playoffs caught my eye. And they're in a tough division, and with San Diego and the Dodgers, of course, and having to play them as many times as they're going to have to play them, it's not inconceivable that they could go on just a complete collapse. Their starting pitching is every one of the starters is 30 years or older, by far the oldest starting rotation in baseball. Not saying they can't do it. I mean, we have a guy 42 years old winning Super Bowls, but this is a 162 game season, and you hit that wall at the end of August. So, what do you think of that idea as a pizza money bet that the Giants missed the playoffs?
John, I think if your book has that and you can get something down on that, you have to bet it because, first of all, the Giants might not miss the playoffs, but they're good. This team is going to regress, in my opinion. That's about as confident of a statement that I can make surrounding any second half baseball team is that the Giants, they come in, they're 57-32, they're playing 640 baseball. I'm willing to pretty much guarantee at the end of the season that they don't have a 640 winning percentage. Like, they're just not going to. Yep. And for a lot of the reasons that you said, they do have an aging staff, but I think just for the sheer number of times that they're going to have to play the Dodgers and the Padres, who are just superior teams, in my opinion. They really are. And I really think if you go back in years past, especially with the Dodgers, they really hit another gear in August and September. This Dodgers team, if you go back the last couple of years, there was a year where I want to say the Dodgers might maybe enter June. It might have been 2019 or 2018. I mean, the Dodgers have been really good for years now. So you could really look at any of their seasons as like as comparable to like what they are this year. There's been years where they went in and they were right around 500, middle of June, and then all of a sudden they, get to the end of the season with 105 wins. I mean, 100 win. So they really tend to kick it into another gear come August, September, and I think the Padres. There's obviously less of a precedence here with the Padres being a contender type team, but I think the Padres should only get better as the season goes on. And yeah, I mean, if you're the San Francisco Giants, you're going to have a handful of games against the Dodgers and the Padres. And, if you start, let's assume that you get jumped by the Dodgers and the Padres, which I think will happen. So I really do think the Giants will be playing for the second wild card. There's a couple, the Reds are capable.
Indeed they are.
And the Phillies are capable. Like, I really think that it's possible that especially, if the Reds get hot or one of those teams gets hot, Atlanta took a big blow. The Acuna thing probably killed their chances. But yeah, like, let's just assume that Cincinnati starts to play good ball, which I definitely think they can. Yeah, you could get to the, final week of the season and the Giants might be sweating for that final wild card spot a bit. And if you're sitting there with plus 550 on them not to make the playoffs, you might be able to, make yourself a little money by the end of the season, regardless if they do or not. So yeah, I definitely could see that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's 525 right now at DraftKings that they don't make it. And we only have a couple minutes left here, but I wanted to also mention the Reds. And you mentioned the Phillies, too, which is on our list here as possible attractive bets to make. The Phillies have suddenly now gotten the lineup right. They've been hitting the ball a heck of a lot better. So I encourage everybody, don't look at run differential at this point of the season. It doesn't reflect what's going on now. There's been too many games played, and that sample size actually, you won't hear me say this very often, is too big to reflect what the current status of the team is. I think, and we'll definitely be talking about this afternoon with Rob Vino and Manny's Pub at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, but I think the Phillies need to just get a closer, or they need to figure out who the closer is going to be, and then go with it. But I think they're going to be very active in trying to get a big-time closing arm, because that really is the thing they're missing. And if they get that, I mean, they're second high in the division in runs scored. I believe it's almost 80 more than the Mets are scoring so far this season. And the Mets never score for DeGrom, so every time the Phillies play DeGrom, it's probably a chance to bet plus 250, simply because they probably can score 2 or 3 runs off DeGrom the way they're hitting. And never underestimate Bryce Harper. His RBIs are down, and people are saying like, wow, big contract and no results, but there's no other guy in baseball when he's hot, it's scorching hot. And who knows? If that happens, then I got to think the Phillies make a run, and the Reds are probably the best bet on the board, in my opinion, to win the division, make the playoffs, whatever one you want to do. That's the one I like the best. And their last series, I think they took 3 from Milwaukee, right? And closed the lead down to 3.5 games, right?
Yeah,
So they're there.
I agree with the Reds. If the Reds had a little bit better from their bullpen so far this year, I think they would probably already be in the division lead. And the bullpen is coming around. So
yep.
if you look at the Reds and say, you know what, I think their bullpen is going to be better than they were going forward, which they already have been a little bit, Reds are really a really good option, in my opinion. I think they've got the rest of the team is in place. They play great ball at home, and they're only 3 games over at home so far this year. So but they could really, when they start to hit their stride, they'll sweep teams at home, and that's the team where I absolutely could see them catching Milwaukee. But you want to talk about the Phillies, and I know you said don't worry about run differential, but if you do put stock in a run differential, and you're looking at the Phillies and sitting there saying, well, they're -9 in run differential. Well, the Mets are only +9. The Mets are, if you look at the Mets run differential, It's really not like they're scoring a ton. And, so you could, that could really go both ways. You could say, oh, well, the Phillies, they've scored 402, but they've given up 411. But the Mets have only scored 9 more runs than they've given up this year as well. So to me, I definitely think the Phillies, and now with Atlanta, I'm not saying Atlanta can just be left for dead just because of one player, but it's a big one, and Atlanta was already profiling toward a team that I thought, I liked Atlanta coming into the season, but through the entire first half, it looks like, unfortunately, Ian Anderson, he's my guy. His dad was my high school baseball coach. I followed him for his his whole career, basically. Unfortunately, I think he's had a little bit of the sophomore slump. He's taken a step back. They never got Soroka back, so the Braves look like a team that's going to sort of fade out of the division race. And then you're dealing with Nationals in Miami. There might be a bunch of easy wins come set. Not that it's easy, but like there might be a bunch of winnable games there for the Phillies come September. And I think I would not sleep on the Phillies. Like you said, they are in position where they could make a move or two, and they could absolutely get hot and win this division. So I think the Reds and Phillies are both options, depending on how your book offers it, to try to get something down on them at a plus price to either make the playoffs, win the division, etc. I think both of those teams are going to have a say in the playoff race in the NL.
I agree. And for more discussion on this later this afternoon, of course, we can't go a show at Manny's Pub without talking about baseball, and we dive pretty deep. We dive pretty deep on this stuff, so be sure to watch that. And we're at the end of the show here, so be sure, don't wait till tomorrow to get Adam's $2 Tuesday play.
Yeah, it should be up
NBA.
soon. I don't know if they posted it yet, but it'll be up all day today. It's for Game 4 tomorrow, and then the price will go up on game day. So get it for $2. It's going to be up at Sportsmemo for almost, probably soon, right until midnight. So get it for $2, and let's cash again in the NBA. And real quick before we go, if you want to do something with the All-Star game tonight, I think bucking the under trend is the way to go. Last 14 All-Star games, 14, 11-2-1 to the under. But if you look at the pitching tonight, top to bottom, not good in relation to what it's been in years past. Last time the game was at Coors Field, 1998, 21 runs scored. The ball was flying out last night. I think you're going to get to the later innings with some average pitchers, average in terms of like all-star game caliber. I think we'll see some runs tonight. So I have a very, very slight lean toward the over 10.5 in tonight's game.
I lean with you. I lean that direction too, but only pizza money.
Yeah, it's an exhibition. You never know.
If I lose the pizza money, then I guess I have to eat filet mignon, according to Tony Finn. I think that's the way it works. So, but seriously, thanks for being on the show, Adam. I really appreciate it. And last but not least, you can get Jimmy Adams, who's been red hot in baseball all season, Adam Trigger, and myself for 7 days, all three of us, every single play we release in all sports, all access for just $99. It gives you a test drive of three of the, what I would humbly say is three of the better guys on sportsmemo.com. So take advantage of that opportunity too. You're basically saving yourself $150 minimum over the price to get all three of us at the regular price. So thanks again, Adam, for your time. Good luck today. He's going to be on Wager Talk at noon, so that's about 25 minutes from now. So make sure you tune into that show. That's always a great show. So for Adam, myself, sportsmemo.com, the Predictive Playbook, and wagertalk.com, may all the wins be